Hi, it's Gene, retired in Mexico. I'm outdoors today. There's a long story behind that. And I have a special guest, Professor Gumbo from Phoenix, Arizona. If I can get him over here and welcome, Professor. Glad to have you on the channel. How
Thank
you
you.
doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, except that I was crouching down trying to fix Cindy's tire and yesterday, and my the front of my thighs are incredibly painful right now. I've both taken a leave and put uh, pain cream on there. It hurts to stand up and to walk. It's the front of my thighs.
Wow. Well, but she's got a good tire now.
Yeah, well, yeah, she does. Um, and I got my friend Wendell here with me.
Okay. And did I freeze up?
He's he'll probably jump off someday.
Yeah, it says I got an
What's that?
unstable internet connection. And so yeah, we
Yeah,
can
you're
try
freezing.
recording. If I drop out, we'll maybe we'll resume. But yeah, no, am I okay on the video?
Yeah, you're okay right now.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and try it. So if you're just tuning in, I'm on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and Facebook, and all the links are up above. Also, we're going to have a Spotify playlist associated with this video. And yeah, so um, what we're doing here is we're counting down our 10 favorite albums. We're on the year 1989. So what's significant about this is that we started with 1970, and this is our 20th video, and this is it. We're all wrapping this up. So we're gonna do discographies after this. But this is our final album countdown. So if you're watching, we welcome you, and we take turns taking turns. And on the odd years, I start. So this is an odd year, so I'm going to kick this thing off. But yeah, just I like to give a little context to the year. So let me bring that up. I didn't open it up, but it was a very busy year. So I have a few things to talk about what 1989 was actually like. So we had the Soviet-Afghan withdrawal. So Russia, Russia pulled out of that war in Afghanistan. We had the Lincoln savings and loan collapses. Charles Keating and the Keating Five. We're from Arizona, and this included two Arizona politicians in the Keating Five, Dennis DeConcini and John McCain. And I lived about 3 blocks from Keating Drive, that was named after Charles Keating. By the way, I walked by him one time downtown, and he was taller than I am. He's gone now. But you remember that, the Keating Five?
Vaguely, vaguely. I remember
Yeah.
hearing about it. I didn't really pay a lot of attention.
We had we had the Central Park jogger assault, which of course is still in the news today because of our president and his reaction to
Yes.
that. But this is the woman that was assaulted in Central Park. We had the Tiananmen Square student protests. So we remember the Chinese man lying in front of the tank. That was an iconic picture. Eastern Bloc revolutions in Poland, Hungary, East Germany, Bulgaria, Romania, and Czechoslovakia. So, yeah, there was a lot of protests going on in Eastern Europe. The Lebanese president was killed in a car bomb. There was a fatwa issued calling for the death of author Salman Rushdie for his book on the Satanic Verses. That was a big story in the news. First GPS satellites were launched. Lexus and Infiniti luxury car brands were launched. Time Warner merged. So, It's not Time Warner anymore, but there's been a lot of mergers since then. San Francisco earthquake, 6.9. That actually canceled, well, not canceled, but postponed the World Series. The Colombian cocaine trade escalated. It was in the news a lot. Traffickers declared war on the Colombian government. The new U.S. President George Bush and DEA froze cartel bank accounts. It was dubbed the Year of Horror. In California, actress Rebecca Schaefer was murdered at her doorstep, and Lyle and Eric Menendez shot their parents. So there was some homicides in the news. The Exxon Valdez oil spill dumped 240,000 barrels of oil in Alaska's Prince William Sound. Deaths, I don't have music deaths here, really. Emperor Hirohito of Japan, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, Herbert von Karajan, Irving Berlin, Lucille Ball. Seinfeld and The Simpsons premiered. The top singles were Madonna, Like a Prayer, Phil Collins, Another Day in Paradise, The Fine Young Cannibals, She Drives Me Crazy, Roxette, The Look, and The Bangles, Eternal Flame. Top films included Batman, Dead Poets Society, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That was the one with Sean Connery. That was a pretty good movie. So, what's that trigger in your memory bank there? A few things?
Uh, Mostly what I remember about the year is that that's the year that Cindy got pregnant.
Ah,
So, so that's what I was mostly thinking about in 1989, that, my wife was pregnant and I would be a father in the next year.
it was a big year for
The
me
the Salman
because
Rushdie
oh, go ahead.
the Salman Rushdie I remember because I wonder how many people besides me, as soon as we heard about the fatwa being put out, we actually went and bought the book.
Ah, yeah, I never read it. I hear it's a good book.
It is.
Yeah. It was a big year for me because I went to Europe that year. The only time I've ever been to Europe. I spent a month there. I went to 7 countries, brought back a lot of compact discs that you could only get in Europe. I remember I bought a lot of Queen and Genesis and a lot of different things. And as far as I know, I was the first Intel Corporation employee ever laid off while on sabbatical. So that was a little disheartening. And then I had a period of unemployment. And I bring that up because I'm going through these 1989 albums, and in a way, some of them, it's like I never heard them before. It's like I don't know where my head was at in '89, but this was a reacquainting of the year. And so it kind of affected how I approached this year. And yeah, there were albums that I either didn't care for and now I do care for, or that there's one on here, an honorable mention. I never even listened to it before till this particular exercise. So yeah, I'm not sure where I was at. Some of these albums I do remember really well. And one of them at number 10, I really struggled between 10 and 11 because my number 11 pick was someone that's a favorite artist of mine. But I bumped him, and I'm kind of glad I did because that means I got a woman on here on my top 10. Otherwise, it would have been an all male list. But my number 10 is Kate Bush, The Sensual World. And I really liked this album when it came out. I liked this more. Well, first of all, her voice dropped a little bit in register, and I kind of liked this new voice. I didn't mind the old voice, but the new way that Kate Bush was singing, just like Joni Mitchell and other artists and Van Morrison, she started dropping down in register, and I liked this kind of more contralto kind of voice that she was doing. And the Sensual World has a number of great tracks. Now, I will say that as much as I like the album, I've always had a little difficulty with it because the production, she's the producer on it, the production is a little bit dense, busy, and that makes it, listening to it in the headphones, there's a lot going on this album, but it's still great. And so I'm picking for our playlist. I'm going to pick to me, there's one standout track, and that's the last song on the album, This Woman's Work. I think this is one of Kate Bush's best songs. And then I picked a song called Never Be Mine, which I believe features the Bulgarian trio on it. And I love Bulgarian music. I loved that album with the Bulgarian women's choir. So those are my two song picks. But yeah, the production's a little dense, but the songwriting is strong and the singing is strong. David Gilmour's on here. He does some really interesting guitar work. And you have a number of international instruments. Like I say, it's a busy album, but her songwriting is really top notch on this album. So Kate Bush, The Central World at number 10.
Excellent, excellent album. My number 10 is my favorite of the Mancusian bands, the bands that at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, a lot of bands were coming out of Manchester. And of course, famously, Oasis was one of them. But Oasis is not the band I chosen here. It's the debut by the Stone Roses. And uh, this is an album that for a while I just couldn't take it out of my CD player. I just like one song after another, just so catchy. It's a kind of sort of dance music, but not like disco or anything. It's just, alternative rock dance. And it was really, really hard for me to choose two songs from this because it starts with the excellent "I Want to Be Adored," and there's actually there are two songs on here that one of them is the instrumental from the previous song being played backwards, and he comes up with new vocals for it, and it's really
Mm.
interesting. But I chose two songs that are both incredibly catchy, Made of Stone, and probably my favorite from the album, This Is the One.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, Madchester. Great stuff. They're from Manchester, right? I think.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah, great pick. Stone Roses. Yeah, so one thing about 89 is things were changing. We were getting the
They never
sort of, what's that?
they never did in this album. I mean, their follow-ups were not nearly as good as the Stone Roses.
Yeah, I like the sophomore one quite a bit, but I agree with you. This album is, I think it's the best. My number nine is someone who's been popping up on my list a couple times, and this is Stevie Ray Vaughan in Double Trouble, Instep, his last album proper. He did another album with his brother, Jimmy Vaughan. But Instep is just really great. It's produced great, produced by Double Trouble, the band, and Jim Gaines, who they worked on albums before. And the story behind this is Stevie Ray Vaughan had gotten sober. So some of the songs are about sobriety. Um, I've seen him a number of times, and the last time I saw him was he was sober. And I'll tell you that Stevie Ray Vaughan sober is more incredible. His playing went up another level. So some people under drugs and alcohol, they're very creative, but for Stevie Ray Vaughan, it seemed like sobriety was good for him. I'm going to go with the opening track, Crossfire, which is great. And then he has these little guitar stabs that kind of musically support the lyrics. And just these little things he does on the guitar that are so great. And then one of his sobriety songs called Wall of Denial. But there are several really good songs on here. Tightrope is a good song. The instrumental Riviera Paradise is beautifully played. So there's four or five really strong tracks on here, but I'm going with Crossfire and Wall of Denial. Also has a great album cover. And yeah, I just love this. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Double Trouble, In Step.
Good. I'll have to give that another listen. I've listened to it, but not frequently. My number nine is one of my favorite artists from the time he first released an album almost 12 years prior to this. And it was like love at first listen with his music. And over the decade, he just did all sorts of different styles, although he was going to do even more. But this one is kind of going back to his original style to some degree. And this is Elvis Costello. And the
Hmm.
album is Spike. And it's not with the attractions, but this is Elvis. He's angry again. Okay. Um, and the two songs that I chose, one of them is not an angry song, but it's a playful, beautiful song. Actually, both of the songs I chose are about old women, okay? And they're real women.
Hmm.
Veronica is about his grandmother. And she was older and she just was apparently a really charming woman, at least to Elvis. And so he wrote this song about her. And it's just such a great song. It has a very positive feel to it. And he, that's really all I could say. Just listen to it that way. But as far as the opposite was a song about Margaret Thatcher. And this song is venomous. It is possibly the most angry song I have ever heard Elvis do. And that is Tramp the Dirt Down. And
Uh,
in it, he plays off of the last two lines of Bob Dylan's Masters of War, but he makes Bob Dylan's Masters of War. He makes Dylan look like a punter in comparison. I mean,
wow.
when Dylan just says, "Stand over your grave till I'm sure that you're dead." Here, Elvis says, "I hope that you die, but I hope I can outlive you so that I can stand over your grave and tramp the dirt down." And
Wow.
he just every line of it is just he. It's just filled with anger and venom towards Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, a couple
So,
quick comments. Go ahead. Go
what's that?
go ahead. I interrupted you.
I was just going to repeat that from Spike, Veronica, and Tramp the Dirt Down.
Yeah, I was just going to say Veronica, if I'm not mistaken, was co-written with Paul McCartney.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah. And then I wanted to just mention a song on that album that even though I owned Spike and had played it a couple times, I when I saw Costello in I think it was 94, he did a song and I didn't know what it was. I didn't recognize it. And it was kind of before the internet. And I had to really search and search and search to find out what that song was. And it was Deep Dark Truthful Mirror.
Oh yeah.
And he did that in concert and I just was transfixed. And I've kind of loved that song ever since. All right. My number 8 is Pixies Doolittle. So probably their best album. I don't know. Surfer Rose is pretty close, but I like the production on here. And let's see who produced it. Let me take a look. It was Gil Norton. And I think he does a great job on here. Yeah, Pixies. When I said music was changing, you were talking about the Stone Roses. We were getting that Madchester and ecstasy thing coming out of the UK. We had kind of proto grunge coming along. Yeah, you could really feel the shift in 1989. And Doolittle was a prime example of that. And I've always loved this album. The song selections are obvious to me. They're my two favorite songs and two of my favorite Pixie songs. Here Comes Your Man and Monkey Gone to Heaven, which is my favorite Pixies song. And if the devil is, yeah, it was just improvised lyrics in the studio, but they're fantastic. And I think most people know Pixies, so I'm not going to talk any longer about it. But Pixies Doolittle at number 8.
Okay. Um, Excellent choices from an excellent album. I commend you on those. Uh, Next, we have another artist that I have liked since high school, or even, well, yeah, since the beginning of high school, and that is Pete Townsend of The Who. And Townsend has had a bug for theater or theatrical writing ever since he made Tommy. And it's like he keeps going back to it. And this was an interesting one that he made, the Iron Man, the musical. And it's just it relies a lot on lyrics based on T.S. Eliot, which were based on oh, what was her name? The person. It was a mystical person. I can't remember the name now. It's
Mhm.
not Hildegard, but the especially the all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And I wanted to put that song on there, but I didn't because I put two others that I like even more. One is a Pete Townsend up-tempo rocker, "A Friend is a Friend," and it's about, the boy discovering the giant robot, the Iron Man. And then um, "I Won't Run Anymore," which is almost a Who style Pete Townsend song.
Hmm.
So "A Friend is a Friend" and "I Won't Run Anymore." I ain't gonna run anymore. And it has a real bouncy rhythm to it. Great song. They're all great songs. By the way, there's a couple things that are interesting on this album, including the Who got together and did a version of "Fire" by the uh,
Arthur Brown?
Arthur Brown. Yeah, the Arthur Brown song "Fire." And then you have "I Eat Heavy Metal," which is is it one of the blues singers. I can't remember now which one. I should have looked it up. But the think I think it was. Let me look really fast. I might be able to find it here. I might actually say on the. Oh yeah, it's John Lee Hooker,
It was, okay.
and you got Nina Simone, and so you got some really great guest stars on here, and even Townsend's little brother Simon.
Wow. I saw Simon Townsend in concert.
Did you?
Yeah, he was good. And then we asked for an encore, and he came out and he said, "We don't know any more songs. So what if we just do one of the songs we already did again?" We went, okay. He ran out of material. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was a good show. Wow, Iron Man. Okay, great. Well, I'm looking forward to talking about my number seven because the reason that we do these lists, this is an album I've owned from the very beginning. I bought it in the 90s. I liked it okay, but I just never connected with it. And I listened to it for this project, and I was about halfway through the album going, and all of a sudden, like the back half of this album started sounding great. So I played it again, and it finally clicked. It just clicked. You know that feeling. Um, yeah, I've owned the album for 30 years. Oranges and Lemons by XTC. I get it now. It was a double vinyl, but I think my CD is a single CD, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. The CD
The
came out as a
second,
single.
what's that?
The CD was definitely a single.
Okay. And the back half of this is great. I mean, the hit single "Mayor of Simpleton" is the second track, and that's a great song. And now I get it lyrically. It's about a kind of undereducated man who's in love, and it's a great song. But I'm going to go with a couple deep tracks on the back. This was produced by Paul Fox. I think he did a great job on this album. It sounds great. There's all sorts of interesting touches. There's some jazz guitar. There's Mark Isham's trumpet. There's all sorts of colors on this on the back half of this CD, and I love it. And I'm going to pick a song written by each of them, by Andy Partridge, who wrote the lion's share of the album. For his song, I'm going to pick "Merely a Man." And then right after that is a Colin Moulding song called Cynical Days. And I really like that song. And the last thing I wanted to say about this is, I often think about my favorite bass albums, um, Station to Station and Quadrophenia, and albums that have great bass. Holy smokes, is Colin Moulding playing his ass off on this album. This has some of the greatest bass playing I've ever heard on an album. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, man, those are really creative licks on the bass. They support the rhythm, but they're also, um, what do I want to say, non-traditional. It's not the kind of bass you would expect. And he plays a lot of high notes too, and then comes back down to low notes. And he's all over that thing and very creative. And he's able to be melodic and creative and yet stay in the rhythm pocket. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Colin Moulding, who I now realize is a really underrated bass player. He doesn't usually come to mind when I think of the great bass players, but listen to Oranges and Lemons, and you'll hear some of the best bass playing you've ever heard. And yeah, so finally, I got it. I got it. It clicked. XTC Oranges and Lemons at number 7.
Right. That album owed a lot to their Dukes of Stratosphere side project, adding the psychedelic type sounds into there. Uh, okay, my number 7 could hardly have a top 10 list without me putting Van Morrison into it somewhere. And this is really a fine album, not his very best, but I have pointed out to friends that Van Morrison tends to make great albums in the last year of a decade. You know, you had Astral Weeks, which was 68, but it counts as 69. In 79, you had Into the Music. And then here, Van did a upward swoop with Avalon Sunset. Now, it had a song that was really popular, but and I've never loved it quite as much as I've loved some of the other ones. That's his duet with Cliff Richards, Whenever God Shines His Light. But it also had possibly the most beautiful romantic ballad that Van has ever written, and that is "Have I Told You Lately?" Um, and I don't know if I told the story before. I think I have, but it bears repeating. On one of the bootlegs that I have, Van is talking to the audience, and it's around 1990. So this album was fairly new. And he says, this is a song that I wrote, and people didn't pay a lot of attention to it until Rod Stewart recorded it. And then now Rod Stewart has made me rich because of the royalties for this song. So thank you, Rod. And then he did the song. But I just like the way he said, "Thank you, Rod." And the other song, I love this because it's an up tempo, almost a dervish type of a song, "Daring Night."
Mm.
Squeeze me, don't leave me in the daring night. Um, and it's Van doing repetition, in the daring, in the daring, in the daring. And so it's just possibly my favorite song. It is my favorite song from the album, Daring Night. So have I told you lately and Daring Night from Avalon Sunset?
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Good album. My number 6 is an album that didn't get very good reviews. All Music only gave it 2.5 stars. But one of the reasons is because everyone, the band and the fans, were all critical of the mix. And that's been corrected in 2019. So I'm going to go with The Replacements, one of my
Hmm.
favorite bands. There's 4 albums of theirs that I really like. And the original album was called Don't Tell a Soul. Um, but when it was renamed in 2019, it was called Dead Man's Pop. And that's a four CD box set. And the first CD is Matt Wallace remixes. So the original mixer, I believe his name was Chris Lord Alge. I believe I'm going off memory on that. But Matt Wallace produced the album, and he's a very well known producer, engineer, and mixer who's done a lot of grunge music, and he's worked with a bunch of people. If you check out his resume, Rick Beato interviewed him. I watched that whole interview, and finally they and I don't know if it was that they just collected the Matt Wallace remixes or if he went in and remixed it at a later date. I don't know the background story on this, but I'm gonna I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna my number five pick or number six pick is the Replacements Dead Man's Pop CD1. But the other three CDs are really interesting too, a number of live material and outtakes. But um, I always liked Don't Tell a Soul, but I like the new mixes that they did in 2019. And so I'm going to pick songs Aching to Be, which is kind of a ballad, really pretty Paul Westerberg song, Aching to Be, and his song Aches during it, which is really great. And then an up-tempo song called I Won't. I won't. And I've always liked this album. I didn't really understand the critical backlash, but like I say, listening to these remixes now, I say, oh, okay. Yeah, in fact, on the opening track, which is called Talent Show, I was listening to that the other day, and I said, my God, there's banjo on here. I never heard the banjo till I heard Matt Wallace's remix. And he brings all the instruments out, and you can really hear everything. Nice spacing in there. So yeah, the replacement, Dead Man's Pop, CD number one at my number six position.
My number six is Michael Bean and the Call,
Ah,
Let the Day Begin, which ha gave them what was possibly their biggest song, Let the Day Begin. Very high energy song. Let the day begin, let the day begin, let the day stop. Um, or start, he says, sorry. And then another one is another high energy song, and one I actually like a bit more than Let the Day Begin, but these are my two favorites, and that is Surrender, where he says, "Oh, God, I miss you." And it's a very emotionally powerful song. One thing I will say about Michael Bean, who has, rest his soul, um, I don't think I've ever heard a song by him on his solo album or by the call that it didn't sound like he was entirely vested in what he was singing. And that was true when we saw them for the first time, also. I
hmm
mean, he was falling down on the stage. He was so filled with emotion. And it was funny too, because remember how a couple times he took his guitar and threw it up in the air, and Rhodey had to come out and catch it. And it was like spontaneous. It was this um, energy that he had, and it's very emotional energy. And he has written some beautiful ballads. Memories is one of them. It's not on this album, but the two songs on this are both high energy songs. Let the Day Begin and Surrender.
Wow. And I missed that because for some reason, I don't think that album was on Wikipedia's list of the albums of the year. And it wasn't rated highly on Rate Your Music. And I go to these sources to see what the albums are. And that's the second time that I overlooked the call. I love that album. And when we saw them, it was kind of like being in a Pentecostal church.
Absolutely. Yes. It was yeah, I think you even said that to me when we were on our way out of there.
Yeah, he just kept falling on the ground like he was being possessed by the devil or something. And it was fantastic. And it was a very hot night. I remember it was all humid and sweaty in there, summertime in Phoenix. And man, I loved that show. I was so glad you asked me to go. So great pick. And I feel badly that I didn't review that album. So, oh well. At least you got it on here. Number five for me is an album that you've mentioned. So now we finally have an album in common, and that's the Stone Roses. So I got him a little higher at number five. John Leckie produced. And you're right, it's great. It's some kind of like thing between dance music and dream pop or something. It's some kind of hybrid of styles that's really infectious. And I like Ian Brown, I believe is the singer's name. And I've actually listened to his solo material. He has a song called FEAR that I love. Um, yeah, good stuff. Now, I wasn't listening to this in 1989. I was late to the party and I discovered this later. I don't remember when I first listened to it, but it was many years later. And I don't know where I was, but I didn't listen to it. But it's great all the way through. And maybe a little bit of a weird step on the album where they kind of do this cover of uh, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. They give it a different title, and it feels like an outlier. It's a little bit out of place. So maybe the album is not a perfect album, but it's close to five stars. And I picked two different songs than you did. I picked the bookends. I Want to Be Adored and Fool's Gold. But
Oh,
you can't
great,
go
great
wrong with
song.
any tracks on this album. But yeah, I picked the bookends. You like those songs?
I really do. Those were both singles from the album. Hmm.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
I think people know the Stone Roses. Yep. Go ahead.
coming late to the party, I did a little bit also. And I think it's because they never really, except on college radio here in the United States, never got played much. I mean,
Right.
there was a lot of Oasis, but not much from the Stone Roses.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember hearing them at all. And I've talked about the Cure and the Smiths that I don't remember hearing them on the radio. And there was just some of this kind of Brit, I don't know, I don't want to say Brit pop because that's its own genre, but that goth Brit pop, Manchester, just certain styles of music that the radio just didn't have it on their playlist. And we were still really influenced by the radio up until I'd say about the late 90s or early 00s. And then radio started to drift off as an influence. So, yeah, go ahead with your next pick.
Okay. So right. Well, that was your number six, right?
That was
Yeah.
my number
My
five.
That's your number five. My number five is Bob Dylan's "Oh Mercy," produced by Daniel Lanois, and this is such a powerful album by him, in my opinion. And I mean, it has a couple songs that are just really powerful. One of them is an up-tempo Dylan song, Political World, where he's making all sorts of commentary on what was going on at the time, at the late 80s, early 90s. And as you talked about, there was a lot of political stuff going on. So Dylan, he hadn't lost track of his political sensibility. And then there's another, and this is Dylan coming back, which he always would do once in a while, to his religious ideas. And one of them is "Ring Them Bells," which is just such a powerful song about it's a song of religious yearning. So, Political World and "Ring Them Bells" from Bob Dylan's "Oh Mercy."
Yeah, and for those of you new to the channel, we did an entire Bob Dylan discography where we ranked our albums. And so, yeah, just go down to the older videos on here, and you can find that and see what we both thought about that album. Yeah, great. My number four, you'll be pleased that I have this on here. I knew I liked this album. I figured it'd be number 10 or number nine. But yeah, I played it for this project and I'm like, damn, this is a good album. This is Bob Mold's workbook. And I think you gave me this CD. I think it was a gift from you.
I
And I've
think I
had it
did.
ever
I loved
since.
it so much. Yeah.
And yeah, I think there are songs I like on his next album, like which is called the song "Black Sheets of Rain" is one of my favorite Bob Mould songs. But in terms of just consistency, track to track, maybe his best album. I'm not sure
I think
about that. Um, there's some of his albums I haven't played in a while, but Workbook is just great, and I think it's probably going to be on your list. And if it is, I may have the same two songs as you because there are, to me, a couple standout tracks. One of them, though, is not the most is doesn't have that many streams, and I don't know why because it's great. But the first one does, which is "See a Little Light." So "See a Little Light" has a decent number of streams, and it was might have been a single. I'm not sure. It was great song, and then "Poison Years," which I think is fantastic. A good angry song. For those of you who don't know, Bob Mould is this is his first solo album after the breakup of Husker Du, a band that the professor and I, you'll find it on all of our album lists. It's a mutual favorite band of ours. But yeah, Workbook is just, it was produced by Bob Mould. It sounds great. He's a he's a singer that I like. Is he a technically great singer? Maybe not, but I don't care. I love Bob Mould singing. And yeah, "See a Little Light" and "Poison Years" from Workbook.
great, great songs. I think that Poison Years was referring to the breakup of Husker Du. He and Grant Hart were really good friends, and he was really hurt by their falling out. And treason is the reason for these poison years.
Yeah.
Um, and the yeah, and then the song "See a Little Light." It's just who would have guessed that such a hardcore punk would have done such a wonderful pop song with it has jangle guitars on there too. So and one I'll talk to you later about this. Uh, all right, so that was your number four, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, my number four, because we have a lot of overlaps here, is Pixies Doolittle. I agree fully with you that it is their best album. And I remember, I don't know if you stand by this or not, but right around the time 1989 was ending, you made a comment to me that you thought that Monkey Gone to Heaven was possibly the best single song from 1989. And I have repeated that to people. I really think that that could be true. I think it's just such a great song. If man is five, if man is five, then the devil is six. And if the devil is six, then God is seven. And there's a really good video of this with Black Francis singing that. But yeah, this monkey's gone to heaven. And I would frequently play this for my students, and they would say, "Oh, this is such a good song. What is this?" So, "Monkey Gone to Heaven." The other one is also "Here Comes Your Man." And was that your choice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll need to come up with another one, a third one. Uh,
Yeah, let's
let's
look.
see.
"Debaser" is a good song.
Yeah,
Um,
Debaser.
"Gouge Away" is a good song.
It is. It is.
Um, the songs are "Debaser," "Tame," "Wave of Mutilation," "I Bleed," "Dead," "Mr. Greaves," "Crackety Jones," "La La Love You," "Number 13 Baby," "There Goes My Gun," "Hey Silver," "Gouge Away," and "Debaser."
So good. I would say let's go with Debaser.
Yeah,
It's
the
the
opening
opening
track.
track, and
Yeah, that one's pretty
yeah,
good. It's hard to pick, but yeah. Well,
Debaser. Yeah, it's good.
that's great.
So, yeah,
That's a great album. Number three. So I don't think this is going to be on your list, but I don't know. because I have no idea how much you like this artist. But I'm gonna go with Nine Inch Nails. Pretty
Hmm.
Hate Machine, their debut, Trent Reznor's debut. Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor, same thing, right?
Right.
Multiple producers like Flood. Flood was on here. And I thought, can you really put this at number three? But every time I play it, I love it. It's got this angst that's just irresistible. Nobody does angry quite like Trent Reznor. I mean, holy moly. There's such feeling in his songs, and some people accused him of borrowing a lot, but to me, this sounds pretty fresh even today. I listened to Pretty Hate Machine, and to me, it kind of feels like it came out of the void. I know he borrowed from other people, but this album just still sounds really fresh to me, and I love it. Um, I like industrial music. I'm particular about it, but I like it. I've had a lot of Einstürzende Neubauten on my list, and yeah, this industrial thing is really nice. So anyway, my songs, there are, I think there's a lot of good songs in here, but I'm going to go with the two opening tracks, Head Like a Hole and Terrible Lie, because that 1-2 punch opening the album is really great. But there's other songs like, I get what you get what you deserve, or and it's interesting too because I noticed in listening to this album again this week that he generally uses the you pronoun. He's generally finger pointing, but he flips it around on some songs and does the I pronoun. He says, I get what I deserve. And so it's interesting the way he switches the pronouns around. And so it seems like he hates you and he hates himself, but it's a great piece of art. Pretty Hate Machine at number three. Yeah, I really like that.
There was a lot of self-loathing when he made this album. Once he quit using drugs, there wasn't as much of that, but yeah. Okay, my number three. And I love this album, but I also love my number two and my number one. Kate Bush, The Sensual World. And I just really find this to be, she had said that her that she was trying to do something a bit different than Hounds of Love, and she really succeeded. She also mentioned that this is the most feminine album that she ever made. And that's probably true also for a number of reasons. The songs themselves, the fact that she used the Bulgarian women singers on here. And you mentioned one song, the one you chose, but also Rocket's Tail. I really
Yeah.
like, them on Rocket's Tail. Um, but I can't take away this woman's work, which is Kate singing high again. You mentioned she had gone down, but on this one, she had a higher register. And this was actually, I don't know if she wrote it for the movie She's Having a Baby, but it was used in that.
Mm.
But the song is about how a woman, her job is to have the baby, but the man, he suffers also. And she was very, what's interesting is it starts with the from the point of view of the woman, but I know that there's a little life in you left. I know that there's a lot, that's the man, speaking to her, and all the things I should have said that I didn't say, and all the things we should have done that we didn't do. And, it's the man regretting, thinking that his wife might die. And if you think that I might be off track on that, check the video of it. Check the video, which sort of plays it out. He's
Mm.
there in the waiting room as he's waiting to find out what has happened to her. And then The Sensual World, the title track. Being a very literary person, I I love James Joyce's Ulysses. And what Kate did with this one is she took Molly Bloom's. soliloquy, closing soliloquy, and she basically paraphrased it. And Molly Bloom throughout the soliloquy is saying, "Yes, yes," and he did this, yes, and he touched me, yes, and she sings it. And it's a very, very erotic song, by the way. If you listen to the lyrics, and his spark took life in my hand. And you know what she's talking about there. Um, but she goes, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and it's like, oh wow, it's like she's almost having an orgasm when she sings the song, and I think she really captured Molly Bloom's whole soliloquy with this one. So the sensual world with this woman's work and the sensual world.
Great. That'd be great on the playlist. So my number two, I don't need to look at my spreadsheet. Um, Five-star album that I love, and you've already mentioned this. This is where I've got Bob Dylan's "Oh Mercy." So I like this album this much that I put it at the number two slot. It's one of my five or six favorite Bob Dylan albums, maybe. Uh, I love it. And and it didn't get great reviews. I think it got 4 stars on All Music. A lot of people don't like Daniel Lanois' production, but I do. I think it's great. There's some harmonica on here that doesn't sound like any harmonica that Dylan's ever done because it's sort of swampy, you know? And yeah, I love it. I like your two picks. I went with two completely different songs, but the
Oh,
mood
great.
on here is great, and then his lyrics have shifted a little bit. So he always, he might have a political song or he might have a relationship song, and the lyrics are just so interesting and different on here. My two tracks are most of the time. I'm halfway contented most of the time. I just love the lyrics on there. And then what was it you wanted? Were you the same person that was here a minute ago? I so relate to that song. It's like, was it something important? Well, maybe not. Uh, you've got my attention. I'm back. What was it you wanted? And did you think you could get it from me? And man, he was kind of moving into this postmodern Dylan that we get in the 21st century. There were little hints of it here, and I love it. And I think this marriage of Lanois and Dylan is just great, and there's great musicians all over here. So yeah, Oh Mercy at number two. Love that album.
Okay, my number two is Bob Mould's workbook. And like you, I chose See a Little Light, but I also chose Wishing Well,
Ah,
um, which has a little bit of the Husker Du angst to it. Um, I'd like to just give an honorable mention to the opening instrumental, the guitar Sunspots, which
mm-hmm.
leads perfectly into Wishing. Um, and then you have See a Little Light. But yeah, Mold was what was I going to say about him? That was something that was uh, it wasn't about when we met them. It had something else going on. Oh, I know what it was. Um, Bob Mould has shown up on a couple Richard Thompson tribute albums. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been compared to Richard Thompson as a guitarist, though not as powerful of one, but he says the same thing. Great quote when about Richard Thompson. He Mold said, "Every time I go to see Richard Thompson, I leave thinking I'm going to quit playing guitar,
Yeah.
but then I just go home and I press guitar." So um, he 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 admires Richard Thompson. Richard Thompson might be his hero, which was also, I think, true for Tom Verlaine. But these are guys who owed a lot to the great unknown in America, Richard Thompson. So those were the two that I would choose. Yeah.
Great. So my number one, A lot of revisionism on here, albums I listened to for the first time, things like XTC that finally clicked. My number one album was my number one album in 1989, and it has not changed in in 37 years. It has not changed. It has continued to be my favorite album from 1989 every single year since 1989. And it's never moved from that position. You probably know what it is. It's Lou Reed's New York. I adore this album. Man, it is cynical, it is pessimistic, but he is, and not to jump ahead, we're kind of working on Joni Mitchell a little bit for a future thing. And sometimes she just whines, and then, to be as much as I love her. And Lou Reed can do the same thing and make it artistic by talking about the statue of bigotry. And these are things that still ring true today. In fact, this album has aged, well, it's both aged well and not aged well. The reason it hasn't aged well is because of all the name dropping. So you got Louis Farrakhan and Jerry Falwell and Kurt Waldheim and all these different names that people are like, who are these people? So I think the name dropping has really dated the album. Whereas Van Morrison would always name drop classic names that would always stay current. So yeah, that dates the album, but the themes on here are truer than ever. And he really had his finger on the pulse. Yeah, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, and let's just club them to death and get it over with. Yeah, you know, very
That's what
cynical,
the
but
statue of that's what the statue of bigotry says.
yeah, those words are, I think, they ring even more true today. And I also love the sonic template of this album. So what he decided to do was he and Mike Rathke are the two guitar players, and they have different styles. And he put one guitar in each channel, and then he put the drums and bass in both channels, and then the vocals right up front. And he didn't mess with that. And the whole album is this. There's no gimmicks on this album. There's no embellishments. There's no production tricks or techniques. It's just recorded straight, clean, and clear. It's really like a novel. The music supports the lyrics. The lyrics are brilliant. A couple of the songs, like The Great American Whale, I'm still working on what that song's about. I think I got it mostly figured out. So some of the lyrics are a little obtuse, but man, when they hit, they really hit. And yeah, there's just all these lyrics. I mean, do we really need another politician caught with his pants down and money sticking out his hole? Has that changed since 1989? Hell no. Um, he really got it. So I'm talking about it at length because it's my number one. So I want to talk about it a little bit longer, but it's just a great album. It was hard to pick tracks on here, and and there's some songs on here that play with some different styles. There's some jazz on here. If you the beginning of A Great Adventure has got jazzy guitar, and so he throws some different styles at us. He's got some things that are spoken word, but then some things that are awesome rock and roll, like Straw Man, one of the angriest songs that he's ever done. My two tracks, I'm going to go with Romeo Had Juliet, the opening track, which has brilliant lyrics. I always have trouble remembering the opening lyric. Uh, it's about Columbus and the maps, and it's a great opening line. And then I'm going to go with Busload of Faith, a song which Bob Seger butchered. So listen to Lou Reed do Busload of Faith, and you'll get it takes a busload of faith to get by. You can't depend on churches unless it's real estate you want to buy. I mean, it's just, I'm just addicted to this album. It's great. So number one, Lou Reed, New York.
Oh, excellent choice. Now, you may or may not be surprised by my choice here. What's most amazing is that my number one is an album that really when I first heard it, I was bewildered. I was then I was disappointed, and then I was kind of angry.
Hmm.
And and it's because it surprised me in a very negative way. Um, in the late 80s, as you know, I had become a huge fan of Marillion. And not following the English music press, and they didn't have Prague Magazine at the time, I had no idea that Fish quit being the singer for Marillion. There was some acrimony there, mostly between him and Steve Rothery, the guitarist. But I was at the record store. I still went to record stores at the time. And I saw, hey, there's a new Marillion, Season's End. And I went home really excited to hear it. And I said, who the is this? You know? Um, like, who is this singer? And I just he was a great singer, but he sounded nothing like Fish, which is the point. And it's funny because to this day, 30 how many years later, um, on Marillion websites, people keep arguing over whether the Fish era or the H era was better. And H is for Steve Hogarth. And they made 4 studio albums with Fish, and they've made about 20 to 30 with H. And come on, they got to give it up now. Um, uh, Steve Hogarth has said, and I agree with him here. He said, when I joined the band, um, I really thought that they should have changed the name, sort of like New Order changed their name from Joy Division. He said
Hmm.
we were a different band, but they didn't want to change the name, so they kept Marillion, and so a lot of Marillion fans felt betrayed, sort of like I did. But for me, it was just I said, okay, this guy is good. I said he sounds like a better version of Steve Walsh from Kansas, but uh, and the songs were good. There was one song that actually sounded like it was written for the Fish era Marillion, and that was uh, hold on just a second. My mind is flipping on me here. Um, the Uninvited Guest. Okay,
Okay.
but but the album, I was impressed with the guy's vocal, and I didn't quit liking them. Here's what happened. I continued to buy them with the next album they did, and the next album, and the next album. And it wasn't until they did Marbles, and I listened to Marbles, and it just floored me. I was like, oh my God, this guy is really good. And so that was like a road to Damascus thing for me because my ears were opened to the sound of H. And I went back and I bought the live albums that I didn't have. I listened to every one of the albums that I just taken and shelved, every one of them. And they were all really great. It was like discovering a new band that I loved. And that's basically what it was. So I would like to say that I loved this album from the time it came out, but actually I loved it from the time of Marbles. Um, so why do I place it at number one now? Because it is not their best album, but the best of that year. And it's such an amazing album that they were able to recover from losing such a powerful singer vocalist as Fish and taking on a new vocalist, Steve Hogarth from the Europeans. He was already in a band. One other thing before I tell you the songs is that he was offered the same week. It was made 2 offers. One was, "Do you want to be the lead singer for Marillion?" He said, "Who the hell is Marillion?" Uh, they oh yeah, they're the band that had the song Kaylee. And that's the only song that he knew by them when he was asked that. They're the band that had the song Kaylee. And the other Do you remember the?
Yeah.
The were huge in England at the time, and he was given a choice of being the lead singer for Marillion, a band that was on an independent label and wasn't really doing well at the time, and the being the keyboard player. And he thought, you know, I like to play keyboards. And he does. If you ever see them in concert, he does like to play keyboards occasionally. But he said, I'm mostly a singer and I wanted to sing. And so he joined them. He brought his lyrics with him. They actually put the lyrics to a number of songs that they had been working on musically. And if you listen to uh, the bonus disc on Clutching at Straws, you'll hear a lot of that music. But they had a huge hit with Easter, and I still play that song every year at Easter, even though it's not really about Easter. It's about, you know, the strife in Northern Ireland. But it's a really, really powerful song. And it's great lyrics, great singing. But I needed to choose one that if you're in doubt, if you're a Fish fan, and we're not talking about the jam band Fish either, but if you like Fish, and you've never really listened to Marillion, you've got to hear the Space. The Space is, if it weren't so sincere, I would say that H was showing off, but I don't think he was showing off. His voice is still powerful, but it was so powerful then. It was so clear, and everybody everywhere in the world, and he just goes up so high, and it gives me chills after all these years hearing the Space. So Easter and the Space from Marillion's Season's End. By the way, Season's End is also a great track.
Okay. Wow. Well, I didn't see it coming, but I'm not surprised. So I know how much you love the
They're
band, and I'm looking forward to listening to those songs because they don't come to mind. Yeah,
they
it's
are my
great.
favorite band. They are my favorite band that's still together. And here's the other thing. They've been the same people ever since this album. They have been the same five guys. They've had no lineup changes.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Well, ready for honorable mentions?
Yep.
So you know, I almost kicked the last one off here and put the call on here. I almost changed my mind, but then I was thinking about the playlist. I'm going to go ahead and stick with my five, just for more variety. But number 11, just the one that I put Kate Bush in front of, is Neil Young, Freedom. So I do like this album, produced by Neil Young and Nick Bolas. It's a pretty solid album. 5 stars, no, but I think it's a 4.5 star album. Sounds great. Love the production on it. And yeah, my favorite tracks. I had put two tracks down here because I thought it was going to make my top 10. Wrecking Ball and the electric version of Rockin' in the Free World. So I think you got to go with Rockin' in the Free World. We're only taking one track for the honorable mentions playlist. So Neil Young, Freedom. That's my first honorable mention. Then I have a couple dance pop albums by women. And the following year, 90, I would do mobile DJing for about 9 months. So I did uh, parties, parties, weddings, and so forth. And I kind of fell in love with some of this music that I was playing. So I'm going to go with Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation, 1814. Love the sound of it. You know, again, this is Minneapolis meets Detroit. Uh, Michael Jackson might be a better singer. He might be a better dancer, but I think Janet Jackson has more consistent albums. That's a hot take, a hot take. But you know, when you think about albums like Thriller, there's a, you know, the girl is mine. I mean, I think there's always a couple weak tracks on Michael Jackson's albums. That's why he hasn't made my lists. But Janet, she's pretty rock solid and produced by Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Janet Jackson, and Jelly Bean Johnson. Jelly Bean Johnson just passed away, so rest in peace. But this mix of R&B and industrial music is really attractive to me. I love the sound of this album. Got to go with the title track, Rhythm Nation. Next,
All
another
right.
dance pop. What's that?
I just said, all right. Like the choice.
Um, Here's one that you didn't see coming, but I used to play her all the time in 1990 when I was a DJ. And this is Nana Cherry,
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
daughter of the trumpeter
John
uh,
Cherry.
Don Cherry. And I think daughter, not, but, or maybe that was her stepfather. I think that was her stepfather. But in any event, she grew up in Sweden, actually. A lot of people think she's African American, but she's Swedish by birth. And this is Raw Like Sushi, her debut. It's dated, but it's a time capsule, and I really like it. The same description I would give when we talked about Run DMC's Raising Hell, which is an album that's dated by today's standards. But I remember how I felt about this album in 90. I actually played the 45, so I had a 45 of Buffalo Stance, and that's still a brilliant dance track. And so that's my pick. Yeah, Nana Cherry Raw Like Sushi. It's a fun album. Next is Roy Orbison, Mystery Girl. A lot of producers on here: Jeff Lynne, Mike Campbell, Bono, T-Bone Burnett, Barbara Orbison, his widow. Um, Mystery Girl. It's a pretty solid album. I like it. I think this is the same year, if I'm not mistaken, the same year that Tom Petty put out Full Moon Fever. And I actually like Mystery Girl better than I do Full Moon Fever. So I put that on here. I mention them because both are produced by Jeff Lynne. Of course, Mike Campbell's on here from the Heartbreakers. But yeah, it's a pretty rock solid album. Not perfect, but I really like it. And I have to go with the Bono track on here. She's a Mystery to me. Has has as fine a vocal as Roy Orbison has ever done. And I stand by that statement. You can go back and listen to Blue Bayou. You can go back and listen to In Dreams. You can listen to all these, It's Over, all these great Roy Orbison songs. Listen to Mystery. She's a Mystery to me. The high notes that he hits on there, fantastic. And then the last honorable mention is an album that I never listened to until this project. Never listened to it. I'm going to go with New Order Technique. It's a pretty good album. I don't have a song selection on here. I'll pick one for the honorable mention list, but because I'm still new to that album. But New Order Technique, pretty good album. I like it. So let me run those down again: Neil Young, Janet Jackson, Nana Cherry, Roy Orbison, New Order.
Okay. My choices. And you're going to be very pleased with a couple of them. Um, Hold on here. Need to lower the boom here again. Okay. They're not in any particular order. So I'm going to go with the two that will make you happy because I also chose Neil Young's Freedom, but the song I would choose is Wrecking Ball, a song
Yeah,
that I fell in love with Emmylou Harris's version, but despite his squeaky voice, Neil Young's version is every bit as beautiful. Okay. So that's Neil Young, Freedom, Wrecking Ball, a song that sounds almost out of place on such a grungy album, but it's really good. The next is Lou Reed's New York, and I chose my song and Cindy's favorite song from the album, Dirty Boulevard. So now
okay.
you'll have that one as well. It is going out on the Dirty Boulevard. Okay, so then here's one that almost was my in my top 10, and because it was such a it was in a way a real comeback album for a standby artist for me, and that's Elton John, Sleeping with the Past.
Mm.
And it has a number of powerful, great Elton John songs on it. And they're written by Bernie Taupin also, which might be part of why they're so good. But I chose the song that gave the title to the Elton John tribute album, Two Rooms, and that is Sacrifice. And what's interesting about Sacrifice, aside from the fact that Elton's version of it is great, is that it's, I think, if it's the only song from Two Rooms that is past the classic Elton John period. Okay. It's beyond that. And, many years beyond. And you know who did it?
Sinead.
Yep, Sinead O'Connor. Um, and she did a great job with it too. Then
Sinead.
we have, what's that?
You
Sinead,
ever
yeah.
see?
And, and then we have Todd Rundgren's Nearly Human with Parallel Lines. Another
Great
great
song.
song. And Cindy and I, we went to see, imagine this is a double header, Gene. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but at the Celebrity Theater, while Cindy was pregnant with Kaylee, this was like the first concert Kaylee went to. She was in Cindy's belly, but she heard it. And that was opening band was The Call. And then we had Todd Rundgren as the headliner. So The
Wow.
Call and Todd Rundgren, and they were both really powerful shows. And I really liked when Michael Bean came out with The Call and said, "This is a song that I wrote a long time ago, but I'm really glad that it's come to pass now." And that was The Walls Came Down
Mm. Great
because
song.
the Berlin Wall had. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and then the final one is something that you mentioned, Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever, and the song is Free Fallin'.
Yeah.
So, so Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever, Todd Rundgren, Nearly Human, Elton John, Sleeping with the Past, Lou Reed, New York, and Neil Young, Freedom.
Wow. Yeah. Great list. Thank you.
Five, five albums. The other thing I should say about the Elton John is this is right when he was getting rid of drugs forever. And he was really kind of effed up on drugs at the time. And you could tell because he had bleached his hair and, was just like, I mean, his voice was great, but he looked a mess at the time.
All right. So we usually close the video by just going down our 15 picks and talking about who we've seen in concert. So I'll start with this. Um, I'm jealous of you because we both seen Lou Reed, but we saw two very different Lou Reeds. I saw Lou Reed extremely late in his career, and he came out hunched over with a bad back, and he did mostly instrumental music. It was a benefit for a Buddhist organization. And then the other person on the bill was Laurie Anderson, and Laurie Anderson blew him off the stage, to be honest. But I got to see Lou Reed. You got to see him in his prime. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
But I have
77.
technically, yeah. So I did see Lou Reed, but it was in the 2010s, I think. I mean, it was a few years before he died, so it was very late, and it was pretty disappointing. But got to see him. He had put out that album, the Hudson River thing,
Oh, yeah.
and so he was doing music from that. And I was like, "Come on, Lou." He only sang one or two songs, so. Um, Bob Dylan, I've seen twice. Bob Mould with Husker Du, The Replacements once, XTC once. We talked about how lucky I was because they quit touring right after that. Saw the Pixies once, opening for U2. I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan three times, Neil Young twice, and Roy Orbison once. So that's who I've seen.
Okay. Well, I've seen Elvis Costello twice, Van Morrison three times. The Call three times. Bob Dylan once. Bob Mould with Husker Du once. Marillion, the H incarnation, three times, all in California, twice at the House of Blues, and once at a place in somewhere in Hollywood. Uh, and then who were the others? Todd Rundgren, seen him three times. Elton John twice, I think, maybe three times. Lou Reed once, as you pointed out, and that's it.
Wow. We're about even Steven on this year. And like I say,
And look at all the albums that we have that overlap.
yeah, last year we only had one, or last in 88 we only had one. And for the entire 15 we only had two. So I thought we were going to diverge more, and here we come right back together again. So interesting how every year is a little bit different. And it just goes to show that years are like wines, right? You know, you just have certain years. And so, well, that's it. You got to salutate. Wendell's been behind you the whole time.
Mhm. Say goodbye, Wendell. Did you see at one point he had his arms stretched out? He does
Yeah,
that.
he would get up, turn around, and then get up, turn around, get up, turn around, just trying to be comfortable. It was
That's
great.
what cats do. As was it you that told me cats do what cats want to do?
Yeah. So, man, it's getting warm. It's going to be 87 today. That's pretty warm for here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so my salutation, I just always say, as we say here in Bonita, Mexico, buen dia.